Dredge. I loved it. In short, you should play it. And this was not for me on paper. Like, I am not the. I don't know. I don't play many games like this, or I don't know if I've ever played a game like this before. In that, I don't know. As I started to play it for a few hours, I was like, "Oh, this kind of feels what I imagine or have heard that Civilization feels like the kind of game where you're doing like cycles of effort to expand. In this case, you're getting fish and supplies in order to expand your boat and, fulfill the main quest line, which is like finding cool shit in the ocean, basically in these different island areas. And on paper, that wouldn't have been it, but within an hour playing this, I was hooked. Like, I was like, fuck yeah, dude. I want more fish. I want more supplies. I want my boat to be faster and better. And I was hooked on a gameplay from the gameplay point of view, which is goofy because I've never played anything like this, nor do I play like strategy games or like, I don't know, any sort of genre adjacent stuff is not my first thing to reach for, which makes that's why indie games are so great, because it's like something that gets some good press and you can pick it up and within an hour you probably know if you like it or not, and it's this whole new category of experience in games that you wouldn't have had otherwise. So yeah, from a core gameplay perspective, even if fishing is not your jam, it's not mine, nor is a fishing game anything like what I would reach for. But just from how it felt to play alone, both the actual like experience of fishing, and they call it dredging, right, where you're picking up like wood and cloth from the ocean to beef up your boat. Oh, it just felt good. It was addictive. It like scratched an itch. It's the kind of thing where you're like, oh, one more cycle, right? So now I can see that like Civilization phrase you see on Reddit all the time where people play till like 6 a.m. because it's like, oh, I'm going to do one more day or whatever it is because I haven't even played Civ. But here you're also in this not time loop, shout out Outer Wilds, of course. But you are like experiencing days, and the hours matter. As you move your boat or do anything, you eat up chunks of your daytime. And at night, things get crazy because there's some goofy shit going on in these towns, right? There's some evil spirits and forces and some wacky stuff going down. And that's at the core of the narrative here, which I'll talk about later. You're dealing with like what's going on, right? Why is there some weird shit? But yeah, so I'm stoked. I think I spent like 9 hours or so, and I genuinely was into it the whole time. I don't even think at the end, normally at the end of games, I start to like lose interest, and barely did that happen here. I thought it was rad from start to finish. I think it spends just enough time. I don't think it's too short. I could have used maybe another little chapter. But yeah, overall, big recommendation. Super stoked I played it. We can talk now about the graphics, because in the atmosphere in general. So first off, graphically, I fucking loved it. I feel like that's an easy win, right? This can't be too... I mean, I guess you could be pissed it's not more realistic if you're a goofball, but clearly they set out with a tone in mind and they nailed it, in my opinion, and it looks good, man. Just look at the way the waves move, and the fish are bubbling in the water, and the distance in the sky looks fucking rad with this. It's not cel-shaded, but it does, as you're moving your boat around, you are thinking of Wind Waker, right? If you're me, like a 90s boomer. And they do something really right with the tone and the atmosphere at night. Is genuinely a bit unsettling, but it's not so unsettling that you're freaked out. Unless you have thalassophobia or whatever that is, where you're like genuinely freaked out of open water, you're not going to be like truly spooked. But it is unsettling, and there's enough in this like mystery atmosphere of like, why is there weird shit going on in these towns that you're boating around to where you definitely want to know what's going on. Now, one of the cons, I would say, or something, I wouldn't even say it's a con. I would say I could see how the developers or this dev team, I'm stoked to see what they do next, because I feel like they could beef up the atmosphere narrative side of things and the way those link together to make something even more rad. So where I think the strengths of this game are, which is the core gameplay loop, and that includes like building your boat, right, expanding it, the atmosphere, the graphics, I thought the subquests were cool. I thought the pacing was spot on. I thought like the additions to the gameplay as you go and move about the various islands or like chapters of the game were great. But I think that if they could expand on, and this is how I feel with Another Crab's Treasure that I just reviewed too, whereas like there's something good here in the narrative that, man, it would be rad if they spent some more time on it to where you're like desperate to uncover what's happening, in the sense of wanting to know, possibly because you're more connected with the characters, because there's some cool little characters that I genuinely wanted to do the sub quests for at the various islands, right? I think there's like 4 or 5 main islands you go to, or areas, and there's some cool characters and their quests were interesting, but it felt like, oh, this is a first step in something, and had there been either more steps or more substantial connections made, with the main quest in particular, I think the ending and the last like 30% would have felt and had like a charge to it that didn't quite land for me. Like, I still liked it a lot, like the ending and what they're going for, and as you piece together with some notes you find, like some messages in a bottle, but it felt like that was a bit of a area they should explore more in the future, whatever they do next. Like, for instance, there's only 2 like mysterious notes that you find. So you get these like journal entries out in the open water at the various places to start piecing together what happened. And same thing with the townsfolk that you interact with, like the NPCs. They kind of are telling you a little bit of the story. And this is good. This is like cool, not quite environmental storytelling, but you know, it's giving you little pieces that you start to put together. But hot damn, like if there would have been some more, I don't know, stuff to pick up, or a bit more fleshing out of some of the subplots and how it relates to the main plot, for instance. Like it felt like maybe an incomplete tapestry. Like they have like a fucking cool blanket or quilt that they're making, or tapestry on the wall, and it's definitely there and connected. Like you see what they're going for, but maybe either fleshed out a bit more, or honestly, I'm thinking about it now, just a few more of like the notes that you find in the ocean and how they relate to what was actually going on, to beef up the narrative aspect. But realistically, you're not going for the narrative, really. You're going because it just feels so goddamn good to fish and find like big fish and make money. And that, man, they nail like the currency, like the amount of currency you have. There's a term for this I'm blanking on, where like you're getting enough money to where you really want more, but you don't feel like it takes forever either. It's like hitting the right spot between scarcity and surplus. That feels so goddamn good. So, yeah, I mean, overall, loved my time with it. Again, really the only con here is, like, I just wanted more of some of these character interactions. Like, at the very beginning, this isn't a spoiler, in the first hour, you see the fishmonger guy, he's the first guy you sell fish to, and he gives you a couple quests. And I was instantly wanting to, like, finish those quests to figure out more about what was going to happen to him. Because at one point in the quest chain, he like disappears, and I'm like, oh, he's going to come back. Like, what's going to happen? Is some of this dark energy shit going on going to like get him, kind of thing? And that and a couple of the other points in some minor quest line was when the only time when like the plot or the narrative was hooking me as much as the gameplay. And man, if they could have both the narrative and the gameplay hooking you like together, pun intended, like they could get some fucking whales, you know what I'm saying? Because they've really done something well here. Honestly, just the like UI feels really good, which is important in a game like this because you do spend a lot of time in the UI. There was a couple like little nitpicks I had on bouncing between the store and your cargo on the controller, because I played this on the PS5, but they're just nitpicks. I mean, who gives a fuck? And yeah, I think another little nitpick is like it's not super clear what happens at night. At night, you start to lose your mind a little bit. Like there's this eye at the top of the screen you can see, and you start to like freak out. But it wasn't super clear like what happened if you just let that run. Obviously a super small nitpick, but I thought that was interesting because it was like a core game mechanic, sort of like you go kind of crazy at night. But I never let it get so filled up that anything happened. My vision just got blurry. So I thought that was kind of weird. But I mean, who cares, right? And by the end of the game, I had almost finished upgrading my ship. There was still a decent chunk left. And so it kind of hit just the right spot there with the progressions that they had in place. And yeah, that's it. I think overall they've done something awesome here, and I totally recommend it.